go. Welcome everyone. My name is Nikki and I'm the Office Manager of Pro Talent Recruitment. I've been a recruiter for about 4 years now, but I've had my own business before. So I recruited for my own business back then, about 5 years in total. And I've been with our current company for about 4 years, and I am the office manager, and I also am a recruiter that specializes in financial services. So today, our webinar is how to ace that video interview. Now, a lot of people, a lot of companies nowadays are actually doing video interviews. And that's normally the first round that goes through. And then after that, they normally meet you in person. But I'm finding a lot of candidates aren't fully grasping the concept of a video interview or how it works. And a lot of candidates are coming back to me saying, I don't understand what I did wrong. They interviewed me for 5 minutes and they told me no. Or they just said, okay, thank you, we'll get back to you, bye. And often when I speak to the clients afterwards, they tell me long stories. And I often think, I really don't think the candidate knew their small actions had such an impact on the recruiter or the company. So today we'll be discussing things about video preparation, about connectivity and troubleshooting, and also video etiquette. So you have to excuse me. As a recruiter, I'm very up to date on the etiquette of video, but I do sometimes break them myself. And I think that's something to remember as well, is don't be too nervous during your video interview. The more stiff and the more false you are, the more the recruiter will pick up on that. So even though I'll tell you, don't do this, I might even do it during our little session here. So take everything seriously, but then don't overdo it. Don't become too stiff or nervous during your video interview. So let's get started. Firstly, we're going to start off with interview preparation. Now, the first thing I want you to know is to take your video interview as seriously as a face-to-face interview where you go to the company. A lot of my candidates do not take the video interview as seriously. They think of it as like a quick hello or a little introduction or just a quick chat. It's not like that at all. Take your video interviews as seriously as if you are meeting the person face to face. Everything from arriving early. That's so important. During our webinars that we do, or even just my Zoom interviews that we do, I would say only about 10% of my candidates arrive early for the interview. Most of them log on the dot of the time that the interview is scheduled. Now, a lot of you are thinking, but the interview is scheduled at 2 o'clock. Why do I have to log on at 10 to 2? Trust me, there is a huge list of reasons why you need to log on early. But you will not pitch up to the company driving up in your car at 2 o'clock. You know, that's very rude. You're going to arrive late. And that's what happens with video interviews, is you log in at 2 o'clock, but your audio, your video only starts activating after a minute. The hellos only start after 2 minutes. So you're essentially late if you log on at the time that the video is scheduled. Do not log on time because you will be late. Log on 10 minutes early. Okay, so first things first, try and find out the name of the person interviewing you. Normally you would get an email with the link. So normally you should know the name of who's interviewing you. For some unknown reason, if it comes from an admin at thecompany.co.za, try and get a name because you need to know who's interviewing you. If you don't, you're going to go in blind. You're not going to know who to speak to, who to call, that sort of thing. And speaking of calling, my next tip for you is to get the company's landline or get the interviewer's direct line, or even better, if you can get their cell phone number. The reason why is if there are problems and for some unknown reason your computer crashes during your interview, the first thing you must do is call that interviewer. Because I've had it how many times that candidates sometimes even phone me in a panic and say, Nikki, my computer's died. I don't know what's going on, but it's not working. Then I quickly phone the client and say, listen, this is what's happened. But if you're not lucky enough to go through a recruiter, the client's going to think, she just hung up on me, or he just hung up on me. Oh, whatever, I'm not going to consider this candidate. So please get a contact number of the person interviewing you. So when you get that link come through to your email address, confirm, good day, I'm just confirming that it'll be Vusi who will be interviewing me. Just for safety purposes, whatever the reason is, can I have Vusi's direct number? or even just the company's landline. If possible, the cell phone number would be better, but just they normally don't give their cell phone numbers out, so that's understandable. So try and get the company's landline. If for some unknown reason you aren't able to get it through the email, Google it. Because when you are having video interview troubles and your computer crashes or something goes wrong, you can quickly phone the landline, and most of the time you'll get through to the receptionist who goes, no, Busi's currently in a meeting. You go, no, I know, it's me he's in a meeting with. My computer crashed. Like, please just tell him I called you immediately afterwards. Because that receptionist should go tell him, and Busi will go, oh, okay, well, at least I know she didn't hang up on me. At least there was problems, that I understand. So you have to make effort. If something goes wrong, you need to tell the person immediately, whether it's, of course, you have to phone call, but then you can add an email to that afterwards saying, Busi, I'm so sorry, I'm having connectivity problems. Can I call you and we continue this interview on the phone? A lot of the times when I do my video interviews, I want to see your face. I want to make sure that you are a person, which is funny because you think people are people, but I want to see your face. You connect to the person. So if I've had at least like 5 minutes with you on the where I can see your face, I'd be happy to continue on phone, So make sure that you have that person's number saved and ready. So speaking of having the person's number saved and ready, most of the time you're going to have your cell phone with you if you're doing this on the computer. Keep your cell phone on silent, because if it vibrates or rings, everyone can hear it. And it's very distracting. I've seen it many times where I'm interviewing a candidate and I literally see them do this. And I know they're on their phone. So just make sure that you are looking directly at the screen. So even better, like I'm actually looking at my face right now while I'm talking, which isn't wonderful, but where I'm looking right now, I'm looking at the camera. So what you're going to do is skip between looking at your face, like I am now, and looking at the camera. When I'm looking at the camera directly, I'm making eye contact with you. It's very important to make eye contact with the interviewer. Eye contact, I'm looking at a camera, but you're normally going to see the person's face in where my eyes are now. But as you look up, you're looking at them directly. And that connection is really important. So every now and then you're going to keep looking at yourself while you're talking, and then you look up at the camera while they're talking or something like that, just to make that connection. It's a really authentic way of creating a connection, even though you're not with the person, is looking directly at the camera instead of looking at yourself. Speaking of looking at yourself, it's incredibly distracting when you keep looking at yourself and you keep adjusting. I've had this happen many times during an interview, and it's completely subconscious. I know no one's naturally this vain, but I often have it, especially with ladies, where I see them doing this. During the interview, and like it's so obvious they're posing. An interview is meant to be authentic. It's meant to connect people. If you just keep looking at yourself and doing a little pose, it's not professional. You're not going to connect to the person, and it is incredibly distracting to the person watching you doing this, because they can see you doing it, and it's actually quite funny, especially when people start cutting and you think I'm making a joke, but you have no idea how often this happens. So you can look at yourself, but don't look at yourself too much. And so when the other person's speaking, normally their video comes up onto the screen and you're watching them, and then every now and then I'll see them like, just don't do that. Don't adjust. Don't make a fuss of your appearance. Every now and then, just doing a quick, if you happen to notice, that something's off, quickly, and then go back to focusing and nodding. Yes, nodding is very important. Acknowledge what the person's saying, because sometimes people sit so still and they barely talk. And so when they freeze, you don't know that they're frozen. And you, as the interviewer, you're talking, and you're thinking the person's listening, but they're frozen. So during an interview, acknowledge what the person's saying. In fact, nodding is really good. It's important, very important, but making noise is also important, because sometimes the audio is delayed. It happens a lot, actually, where I say something and then like a few seconds later I hear you go, And I'm like, oh, it's delayed. I need to be careful. So you say yes when the time is right, and don't just keep quiet. So nodding is something almost everyone does, but make sure you make noise as well. Good noise. Yes. Okay. That's what we want to hear. It lets us know that you're on the same time space as us, so that there's not a delay. So that's important as well. Next is finding a quiet space. It is so, so important not to do your interview in the bathroom. You're laughing at me now, but it has happened many times. Find a quiet space away from people. It's not a bathroom. It's not your bedroom. That's not a kitchen. You know, you need to treat this interview seriously and do not have it in an informal space. I'm right now sitting in the boardroom of Connect Space, which is the most beautiful offices I've ever been to. I'm looking at the ocean right now, but you can't see it. But I'm in a beautiful, quiet, serene space. I'm happy, and you can see it on my face that I'm happy, and that's what shows. Whereas if you're having your interview in your bathroom, it's not a comfortable space, and even your bedroom, it's intimate. I don't want to see your bed. You know, I really wouldn't. What I've seen a lot of candidates do is actually hang a sheet up behind them, which is brilliant because then I don't know where you are. And a lot of them also put backgrounds on. Backgrounds are nice, especially if it's, you know, something plain like a beautiful room. If you want to be funky and if you're having a really fun interview where you know the company is fun and punky and young, you could have like a space background or the forest or something crazy, stars or something like that. But I would suggest either blurring your background or actually just having a plain natural background, because when you blur your background, it often cuts out bits of your face. Let me see if I can show you. I'm going to try and blur my background. It's all part of the settings. All part of the settings. Okay, I can't do it because I haven't downloaded it. But trust me, when you blur your background, it cuts off a bit of your ear. It cuts off any jewelry you're wearing. So all you're seeing is my face, which is fine. It's not bad. But I prefer seeing the person's full aesthetics, just so I can get an idea of what they really like. So keep your background plain. If you want to, you can choose a virtual background or you can blur your background. I'd rather have a blurred background than have a background that is someone's bathroom or kitchen. Or sometimes people have it in their work boardroom, which is fine, or in their office, that's fine. I just don't want to feel like I'm in your lunch break. So speaking of lunch breaks, it's something very important as well. A lot of companies, believe it or not, want you to be in a safe, comfortable place when you do your interview. If at all possible, don't do your interview at work. Because if I'm interviewing you, I'm going to be discussing your salary. I'm going to be discussing sometimes very intimate matters with you. Maybe I'm picking up that there was some family drama in your life and I'm wanting a bit of explanation on that just because it connects to your work. That's something you don't want to discuss at work. And if you are in a safe boardroom where you know no one can hear you and it's a professional setting, that's fine. And you set aside that hour for me, perfectly fine. But a lot of companies, funny enough, expect you to be at home during video interviews. So if possible, especially because they end up running late, you could end up being interviewed sometimes for an hour and a half. And I have heard of those, not often, but it does happen. So they want you to be in a safe space where they don't feel pressurized to stick to your time constraints of half an hour because it's your lunch break. If possible, do not use lunch breaks for your interviews. If you don't have a choice and if you are struggling and you can't get off work, that's okay. I'm not saying lunch breaks are the end of the world. What I'm trying to say is you should let the interviewer know that you will be taking your lunch break for this interview because you cannot take leave or you cannot get time off. And so if the interviewer is prepared for the interviewer and what's going to happen, the circumstances, they're often very forgiving. And so if you are going to be interviewing during your lunch break, make it clear to the person, listen, I only have this time available. I'm so sorry. If you want me to take some time off, I'll need to take next week. We'll have to wait a bit for the interview. And sometimes they might go, yeah, let's rather wait. I'd rather not be rushed during your lunch break. So speaking of lunch break interviews, which I've done so many of, as a recruiter, I'm not too fussed if you take a lunch break because I'm not the one hiring you. My point of my interview with you is to get to know you better and to understand your career. But speaking of lunch break interviews, a lot of people use their cell phone for interviewing. Now, cell phones aren't a bad thing. If you mount your cell phone somewhere and it's far away from you and it's separate, that's fine because I can't always tell the difference between a laptop and a cell phone. But how I can tell is when you do this. Sorry, Nicky, I just need to find a place to sit and then, then you sit down and then I'm thinking, okay, this is quite informal, don't do that. If I see movement like this, I know you're on your phone And it especially when you keep moving and you keep adjusting yourself and your hand shaking, you know, it's just not a good impression. If possible, do not use a cell phone, use a laptop. And under these circumstances where you don't have a laptop, try and go to a friend's house. I've had a lot of my candidates actually go to family or relatives' house to do an interview because they don't have a computer or they don't have a laptop or something like that. If you have the ability to do that, that's fantastic. But if you don't, take your cell phone and mount it somewhere. Find a place and actually put it and put it against the wall or do something with it so that it's stable and not moving. You have to do that, because if it starts moving, it immediately makes the interview a lot more informal, and it just makes me feel like chopped liver. I feel like you're not putting an effort for me. I'm just like a chat. I'm just here for a chat, you know. You're not taking me seriously, and so you need to actually have a stable setting for your camera. I mentioned earlier to log on early. Please, guys, don't log in on the book time. It's very bad manners. Next is dressing, so how your aesthetics. So from what I can see on my computer now, my lipstick looks dark red, but in reality it's actually a very bright red. My earrings look like a lilac color. I don't know if that's really what you guys are seeing, but it's actually a very bright purple. And my nails are a very dark gray, they look very light. But my point is, colors get washed out during your interview. The camera does not depict real life. It often picks up little things, you know, like little bits of hair sticking up, which don't look great, but all colors on you will become washed out. So if you want to be safe, wear black or white, that's fine. I would suggest if you want to wear color, wear bright color, because even if I'm wearing a luminous orange top right now, it will come across as like a pastel orange. So rather overdress for a video interview than underdress, because all the interviewer is seeing is this part of you. I could be wearing the most amazing shoes right now, but you wouldn't know. And as part of your aesthetics is creating good impression overall, but all the interview gets to see is this part of you. So make this part stand out. For ladies, wear your hair down. Gentlemen, wear a collared top. I always get so impressed when I interview someone and they're wearing a full suit. You know, it's so much effort. Thank you. It lets me know you putting in time and effort to our interview. If I see, you know how many times I've interviewed someone and they look like they're in their pajamas, hair tied back, no makeup, they look like they just got out of bed, they're messy, their collars all their shirts all creased. It creates such a bad impression. I don't want people to treat a video interview like a chat, because it really, really isn't. It's much more important than that. Overdress, don't underdress for a video interview. Next is smiling. I interview a lot of people, and a lot of them don't smile. They just sit there, yes, and you know, like the amount that I see of you is so limited, and like when it's different on video. When you're with a person, you can almost get an impression of their vibe, their energy, what they like. But over video, you can't do that. The only way you can do that is through your smile. Smiling nonstop during your interview. I'm not saying like continuously, but wherever the opportunity is right, smile as much as you can. My best part is when a candidate laughs, because that's something I can hear of how beautiful you are, or you know, like it's just something that really, really stands out. If the opportunity is right and you can make a joke where the right time is, please do, because we love hearing your laughs. It creates a good impression overall. I'm not saying giggle constantly, but where the time is right, if you can make a joke and enlighten the atmosphere, do so, because the interviewer will always appreciate having you know, the tension, maybe potentially the tension of the situation lightened up. Really important during a video interview is to speak slower. A lot of people speak very quickly. Excuse me. People often speak very fast, and I am the #1 culprit of speaking very fast. I have to properly slow myself down when I speak on the phone and when I do video interviews. I have a habit of speaking very fast, and almost everyone speaks very fast and unclear, because the audio on the computer isn't great most of the time. And so if you were with me, you'd probably hear me a bit better, but over audio, you might not even hear me clearly. And in fact, sometimes my S's sound like lisps. but I don't lisp. It just sounds like it because I don't pronounce it properly. So that's something to keep in mind as well when you being interviewed. Speak slower and more clearly than you would in reality, because it's a lot to take in over video interviews. Sometimes the speakers aren't great and you have to repeat yourself over and over again. Rather just speak slower and clearer and pause every now and then, especially if you're going to be telling a big story. Because often you'll start your big story, whatever, you shouldn't really be telling big stories, but if you did have to tell a big story, pause every now and then, and make sure the person, because normally when you pause, the person should nod. It's just etiquette. When there's a pause, you make sure you acknowledge what the person's saying, because when they're pausing, they want to make sure that you're following. So when you're telling a big story, make sure that you are speaking slowly and clearly. And you can even sometimes check. I just want to check, did you hear me? Is everything okay? Can you see me? Okay, we're good. It's okay to ask those type of questions. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me? Because so many times I hear which means I can't hear you, I can't see you, whatever the case is. It's so bad when I have to sit there with a candidate going, I can't hear you, and the candidates go, and they're like tapping ferociously to me, and they're like, no, but I swear it was working earlier. And I'm like, it's not working. I just did 5 interviews in a row. I know mine's fine, so just make sure that everything's working, that you're speaking clearly, that you're making sure you're taking your time with the interview. Also, don't rush it, because when you rush, you speak too fast and the person won't hear you clearly. Make sure you're pausing to make sure the person's hearing you and acknowledging you. So that's part of video etiquette, making sure that you're acknowledging what the person's saying and making sure they're acknowledging what you are saying. Because sometimes you can get, and this happens a lot, the signal drops and all I see is you looking at me like this. And I keep talking because I think you're just being still, but you've been frozen for the past 10 minutes and I don't know what the last thing I said that you heard. So nodding, speaking, that's all good. Don't be afraid to ask questions or to ask the person to repeat themselves. A video interview, because the audio can be quite bad sometimes and breaks up, if you're ever unsure about what the person says, just say, sorry, you broke up there a bit. Can you just repeat yourself? There is no bad manners with doing that at all. Trust me. Anyone would be happy to repeat themselves. Also, another one is don't waffle on. What should have been a half an hour interview has ended up being an hour and a half. The person won't keep quiet. They keep going on. It's frustrating me. I don't know, and I'm trying to get them to keep quiet, but they just keep going on. Because a lot of people treat video interviews so informally, they often just think they can just talk and say whatever they want. It's not true. You must treat this like a proper interview. You're not going to waste my time by telling me stories about your dog, unless I asked you. So don't waffle on. And if you can actually tell when the person's getting bored, when they start looking away or they start shuffling about, or for me personally, I'll start, it's very rude, I know, but I'll see every now and then I'll just do this if they've been going on for more than 20 minutes, which does happen. So just make sure you're watching the body language of the person. You can often see them. I'll do it as well. I'll go, oh, okay. And then you'll see me trying to interrupt you if you're talking too much. So just pay attention to the person's body language. Eye contact, I've mentioned already. Make sure you look at the camera. I've been looking at myself most of the time, but we're not being interviewed by each other, so it's fine. I've been looking at myself to make sure everything looks okay, but make eye contact with the camera. Body movements. I happen to be very handsy, which is great for explaining things, but during an interview, there is such a thing as being too handsy and too movement orientated. And, you want to just keep it still, but show a bit of movement. Hand movements aren't too bad. It's a good sign of energy. So you don't want to overdo it though and be like jumping all over the place. Next is background noise and interruptions. Please, if you can, lock your dogs away if you're doing it at home. If you have kids, make sure they can't come inside. Having said that, so they're not going to hate you if your kid comes bursting in and destroys a computer. These things happen, but where you can, please avoid it. I know this is so biased, but I literally have had clients not interview candidates or not hire candidates because their child was around constantly during the whole interview and screaming. Like I'm not talking about infants, I'm talking about like 3 or 4 year olds literally watching them while they're being interviewed and jumping all over the mum or the dad, whatever the case is. It's just, it's not a good impression. And a lot of our clients get put off by that. So where there are potential interruptions of pets or children, try your best to have someone look after them during the meantime. If there was not an option to have someone look after them, please announce it at the beginning of the interview. If there's any chance of an interruption, whether it be physical, like someone coming in or your child running in, or something like a bad internet connection, you need to announce it at the beginning of the interview. As I mentioned earlier, the more prepared the interviewer is for whatever circumstances you have, the better. Sorry, interviewer, my babysitter was meant to look after my little one. I've put her in the lounge with the TV. She should be okay, but I'm so sorry if she ends up bursting. And the interviewer will often go, oh, don't worry, man, I love children. That's okay, but if you don't announce it and your child just runs in randomly 24/7, the interviewer is going to get irritated and think you didn't prepare for this. So please, if you're going to have even connectivity problems, like interviewer, I've been practicing all day on Zoom. I've logged in a few times. I'm noticing my audio drops every now and then. I'm trying to stop that. I've connected to my cell phone internet just to help, but I'm so sorry if my audio drops. Just let me know and I can phone you, or we can continue this another time. I'm just letting you know that my audio isn't right, or my internet isn't good. You need to warn your interviewer about any problems you may have during the interview, and they normally will be very forgiving with that. Next is, I want to speak about connectivity and troubleshooting. Now, I've touched on a bit of this already while we were going through the previous points, but be prepared for the worst. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And I promise you, I sit on my Zoom 24/7. I do about 5 interviews a day normally. And lo and behold, there'll be one where my audio isn't working, or my internet keeps dropping. And it's just like, but my other 4 were fine. I don't know why all of a sudden now my audio is dropping. And normally you'll see it on your side. It'll tell you your internet connection is unstable. That's how I know it's me and not you. So in those cases, be prepared for the worst. I always have the person's number ready. If something goes wrong, I call immediately. Okay, I'll give about 30 seconds and then I'll call, because normally if 30 seconds go by and it still hasn't fixed itself, I'm going to call you. So just make sure to have the person's number ready. If you have not got stable internet, please make a plan and go to a friend's house. Or in this case, I'm quickly going to hop to the topic of where I am right now. I'm in a shared office space. I've got a symbol saying that your internet connection's unstable. So I hope you guys can hear me okay. So where you're in a shared office space, where I am right now, I'm actually sharing an internet connection, and I should be okay here. Whereas I'm at home, it might actually I might disconnect or something like that, and I might then go to my friend who has fiber and say, listen, can I just use your study or your office for an hour just for an interview, because I need to actually make sure that my internet doesn't drop. So I know your internet's more stable than mine. So where you have the option, please go and use a friend's house or a relative's house to use their internet or their computer. If you don't have it for yourself, if you actually have a cell phone that you don't want to use, maybe it's got a bad camera, go and use someone else's. There's no issue with that at all. Next is have a spare headset available. So I'm using my computer's audio right now. Actually, it was bad and I forgot my headset, which is naughty. But if you do have a spare headset available, or even earbuds, or whatever the case is, because sometimes the audio doesn't work properly. All you have to do is connect the earphones and all of a sudden it works. So it's normally a good troubleshooting way is to have that spare headset nearby. Next is for your interview, normally you'll get the link from the interviewer. And so I would practice the day before, practice the morning on, and practice 10 minutes before, just to be safe. I know it's pedantic. If you're super confident and you've used the program a million times, you could practice 10 minutes before. But if you don't know the program, download it beforehand, practice with a friend. You need to make sure you know this program. Companies normally use Teams, MS Teams, and Zoom. It's the 2 favorites. I've had 1 or 2 request Hangouts, which we actually convinced them to go with Zoom or Teams because the candidate didn't know Hangouts, and I've never used Hangouts before, so I couldn't teach them. But most use Zoom and Teams. If you don't know, using Zoom right now, so good. But if you don't know Teams, we use it at our workplace. I could show you how to use it. I could send you a link. You could practice. You could watch a YouTube video. It's all a good way to do it. I've mentioned to really expect connectivity problems, have the person's phone number or landline nearby. I've mentioned already, if you're having problems, make sure to mention it at the beginning of the interview so the interviewer is prepared if you happen to disconnect. Next is position your face correctly. As you can see, I'm the center here, but I actually interview a lot of candidates like that, which is really funny because you think they'd know where their face is. But make sure when you are being interviewed, you are the center of the screen. You could also even like bring the computer closer, and you could do something like that. That's also fine. We are a bit bigger. That's really fine as well. But if you want to be a bit safer, that's okay if you put it a bit further away. Make sure your face is the center of the screen though. Spoken about blurring a background, and I've spoken about if you're having problems with connectivity and you're seeing the person freezing, wait normally about 30 seconds and then give them a call if it's still not corrected. Okay, also have a glass of water nearby because if you're talking a lot, you will need it. Okay, lastly, I want to speak about video etiquette. Again, I've touched on a bit of this already. Things like don't interrupt the person. It's so tricky, but sometimes you'll be speaking, they'll be speaking, no one's giving up their authority, and it becomes messy. The correct way to do is if the person's speaking, just stop speaking immediately. Don't speak over them at all under any circumstances, because it's very rude. And if they speak over you, they're being rude, but just let them and stop speaking, because essentially they are the interviewer. And maybe you answered the question incorrectly and they're trying to say, no, I actually meant this. So don't interrupt the person, but if they interrupt you, let them, because they might be trying to get you on the right path. Don't overshare. And as someone who interviews people every day, I hear a lot of stories. And again, because people treat video interviews so informally, they actually end up oversharing and telling me bits about their life, which potentially can harm their chances of getting the job. Things like the dog will be barking and they'll go, oh, sorry, my neighbor, like their dog is just so annoying and it just keeps barking like that. I'm just so tired of hearing this dog bark. He keeps me awake all night. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I didn't need to know that. So don't overshare. Again, because people treat the process so informally, they think they can just chat and share random things, but this is an official interview. Stick to what the person's asking you. Let the interviewer lead the interview. Video interviews can be sometimes very awkward. Now, as someone who interviews all the time, I know how to lead and I know what to say and I know when to give you a chance to speak. Most people don't. So you'll start the interview and you'll be like, hi, Nicky, nice to meet you. And you'll wait. And they're like, hi, and tell me a bit about yourself. And you speak and you wait. And you don't know if they want to know more or not. So a good interviewer will always lead. But if they don't, just, you could stare at them awkwardly if you want. But if you answered their question, you answered their question. If they're taking long to answer you back, it might be a connectivity problem. So what I would do is just answer the question and just wait for their response. Or you can say, is there anything more you want to know? So you might go, I'm Nicky, I do this, I do that. This is me. And you wait. And they're staring at you and you go, is there anything more you want to know? And then often your question will prompt them to keep asking. Next is, as I mentioned earlier, have a clear, also I mentioned clear background. So no clutter, or don't be in your kitchen, don't be in the bathroom. If you're in the bedroom and maybe you're in the bedroom but you don't see your bed, so it doesn't look like a bedroom, make sure there's no pants lying on the floor that someone can see, or your juice bottle from last week lying on its side with water leaking out. Just make sure it's neat and tidy. There's no clutter in the back, because we will notice it. And I've seen plenty dirty clothes in the background of people's interviews. So please be neat and tidy, because a lot of people actually do their interviews in their lounge, which is fine. I can see their kitchen, I can see into their passage, I can see the family photos in the background. And it's often quite interesting, to get to know someone's house. It's a very intimate thing to look into, but just make sure it's neat and tidy. I mentioned earlier, try to make it as quiet as possible. Try to keep your kids away, your pets away, that sort of thing. If there is noise, just apologize in advance at the beginning of the interview. I'm so sorry. There's construction happening outside on the road. I didn't know it was going to be happening today. You're going to be hearing drilling a bit. Is that okay? I can try and move into a different room if it helps at all. The interviewer will often go, no, don't worry about it. Let's just continue. All right, so I've mentioned to you on dress code of how to dress. Always dress up, don't dress down. I mean, I'm wearing a full face of makeup, blush, concealer, mascara, everything, and it doesn't even look like it. All you can really see is my lipstick. So you can imagine a plain face comes across not as well as, you know, a face that's, you know, someone's put effort into it. For men, I'm not saying you have to wear makeup. Just make sure you're neat. Okay. And a lot of people also, a lot of men, funny enough, speaking of men's facial features, is their beards. Now, I love beards, but not all employment agencies love beards. So depending on who's interviewing you, I mean, put it this way. If you're going to see that person face to face today, would you shave? If the answer is yes, if you're going to see them face to face, you must shave for your interview. If you weren't going to shave, if you're going to see them face to face, then leave it. But if you're going to see them face to face and you would shave normally, please do, because it's just considered neat and tidy to do that. Some beards can be very long and very messy, so you just make sure you neaten it up beforehand. Okay, so next I want to speak about general interview tips. This is your opportunity to ask me any questions. I have actually spoken a lot quicker than I thought I would. I normally spend ages talking. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you have any specific things you want to know about interviews. But let me quickly show you while you're doing that and typing your questions. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. Let me show you our website, because I want to show you all the videos we have, just like I'm doing now for you. We have plenty more. Let me show you. This is our website. As you can see in the top there, it's Pro Talent. Now, Pro Talent is our official website. On there, you can actually see we have a rather large number of tabs open. For any of you who are looking for jobs, we have all our vacancies here. But my point of bringing you here is to show you our blog space. Now, on our blog space, we have many videos of basically everything I'm talking to you about now. This was me about 2 years ago. CV preparation, your appearance, the interview itself, anything like that. We have all of the videos here. The CEO of Pro Talent, we've got here Cindy, speaking about how to be motivated during your job search, how general job searching goes, how to find a job. And she also speaks about how to prepare for an interview. So that's all really cool stuff if you want to watch that. A lot of your questions might be answered by these videos. And we have a number of blog articles, and you can see we do many webinars, and they're all really good, and they all are recorded. The recordings won't be found on our website. They will be found on our YouTube page. If you want to find our YouTube page, you can actually just click on any of these videos. It'll take you through to YouTube, and the rest of our videos are all there. So that is our website. Let's quickly have a look and see if any of you have any questions. Okay, I can't see them at the moment. I'll actually just get to the questions last. While I'm here and I'm showing my screen, let me show you Connect Space. So as you all saw on the poster, there's lots of freebies up for grabs, which is great. But our sponsor for today is Connect Space. This is where I'm sitting right now. None of you can see, but I'm looking at the ocean. I've got a beautiful view. I'm on like a 3rd or 4th floor. It's gorgeous. So for any of you who have problems with having a computer or connecting to the internet and you're needing a safe space where you know your interview will go well, Connect Space is amazing. So they've got offices in Musgrave and Umhlanga and Durban. And if any of you are needing office space for the day or for the week, whatever the case is, they have different arrangements that you can make with them. But your freebie for today is to use Connect Space for a day. So they are giving us all vouchers so we can spend a day in Connect Space. They've opened up 2 new floors. They are beautiful. I'm on one of the new floors now. There's literally a coffee shop. I'll put up photos later, but it's gorgeous. So Connect Space, it's here, connectspace.co.za. To any of you, to all of those who emailed me asking me for the link, I've got all your email addresses. What I will do is I will actually, those email addresses, I've kept them. I'm going to give them to the lady from Connect Space, and she will actually email you all the voucher. But if any of you maybe came from a shared link from a friend or whatever the case is, then you can email me, and then I can give your email address to the lady from Connect Space. So I'm not seeing any questions, which is great, I guess. What I will do is end off by showing you my contact details if any of you need. Let me just open that up again. So for any of you who don't know me, my name is Nikki, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm the office manager and financial services recruiter at Pro Talent Recruitment. My contact details are all there. We've got a team of about 8 recruiters. We do international and national recruitment, and we are happy to help you with any needs you may have. But yeah, it's been absolutely lovely to chat to all of you. I love sharing knowledge on interviewing and the recruitment process. It's one of my favorite things to do. These webinars bring us a lot of happiness, and I hope that we brought you some happiness and helped you a bit. So I didn't see any questions, which means I think all of you are happy. But thank you everyone for your time. We're 45 minutes. I know we spend a lot of time talking, so I'm very surprised. But I really appreciate all the time you've given me. Thank you so much. We are going to be recording this. We have been recording this. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Nikki. Bye.